Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Hello, Julia. Welcome to the show. How are you this evening?
Hi, Yuri. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's nice to chat with you again and actually have the recording that works.
I'm so excited about it, but this is going to be so much better.
It definitely will. We are a year out from our last conversation, and it's going to be even bigger and better.
That's right.
So I'd like to start off by letting the audience know a little bit more about you. So how do you describe yourself and what you do?
So I'm the co-founder of two companies in the performing arts. So I usually describe myself as a leader in the arts and an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And the two companies interface with the arts in a lot of different ways, from management and agency representation to consulting and coaching and career advising, and also consulting with arts organizations. So we do a lot of different things with both artists and organizations. And so it's quite a broad range of jobs that I hold in the leadership capacity with both companies, but It's definitely never a dull day.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm curious then about your, let's say, journey from your college days into what you're doing now, because in looking at what you went to school for, you studied Russian and Eastern European studies. You also did in music, but also then you got your master's in executive leadership. So how did that translate to what you're doing now?
I think that in business and in the arts in general, but also in business broadly speaking, one of the most important qualities is kind of a combination of creativity and perspective. So sort of like creativity in a certain perspective, in a set of perspectives. And I really believe that that's where one's education really comes into play, is providing you with that perspective. So it's not necessarily training you in each of the elements that you need to learn. I think as a business owner, every business owner I know, I think would agree that there's no preparation really. I mean, you have to just train on the job. The only thing you can really prepare adequately and that you really should give a lot of credence to as early as you can in your life is your mindset, because that's something that follows you wherever you go, whatever you do. And that's, I think, ultimately either your superpower or your biggest challenge, depending on how where you fall on the spectrum of how you tackle the mindset.
Yeah.
But and whether you have techniques to kind of reorient yourself. But besides the mindset, I think that there's very little that you can actually learn in school that will be everything that you need to know or really set you up for knowing what you need at the beginning of starting a business, because you just learn so much in the process. So for me, I had a really broad liberal arts training background, which gave me a lot of perspective and gave me a lot of different ideas and different little corners and snippets of information that I do think that I draw from daily. But as far as my undergraduate and prior to that schooling, a little of that has informed what I do, except within music, which definitely has factored quite a bit into my work. I don't think any of it is something that I couldn't have learned later, but it's being a musician myself and having had that be such a big part and formative part of my life, really to this day, but especially in my undergraduate and prior to that life, that has defined a lot of my identity, has defined a lot of my understanding of this business from the artistic perspective, and it's definitely allowed me to speak that language, which was an important thing early and, continues to be important in our work.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as the graduate studies, that I did 2 years after starting our, co-founding our companies. And that was a very intentional decision because Jennifer, my business partner, and I, my business partner's name is Jennifer Rosenfeld. So when I say we, when it comes to leading the businesses, et cetera, that's who I'm referring to. It's not the royal we.
Sure.
But when Jennifer and I were kind of getting a little bit deeper into both companies' existence, especially iCadenza, it was clear that it was time to hire a staff and start bringing in more manpower to our team. And we both realized that we need leadership training, we need management training, and for that reason, I decided to go back to school, specifically looking to focus on executive leadership so that I could lead a team effectively and could sharpen my saw in that arena. And that's been very, very applicable, very helpful, both in terms of working within our team and within our work now with organizations. We do a lot of work consulting for organizations on organizational dynamics, culture shifts, really dealing with challenging internal and external elements that lead teams to a place of disarray or dysfunction, and kind of helping them through that to a different way of working. And a lot of the work that I did in grad school and what I learned there informs what we do and how we work.
Oh, wonderful. So you went from working for a market research and consulting firm to then starting your own company. And so I was curious to hear the thought process of why you wanted to make the leap into running your own company, and specifically why that company versus something else.
Sure. So I had worked for an incredible company, a market research company called Horizon Research, which allowed me, all of my work there was through a series of internships that I did during college.
Mm-hmm.
And that really gave me, it introduced me to a whole new world, which was consulting. And I had no idea, going into college. I thought, law was an option. I was considering an opera career as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no idea that consulting was such a huge field. And having had that opportunity, I really fell in love with it because I saw the impact that this company, and I played a very small role in that impact as an intern. I got a chance to write this major article that was published in the Moody Report, which was really exciting for me at the time. And, I really was given a chance to get my hands dirty, but I was certainly not, a crucial element in the team in terms of helping the organizations that they were working with and the companies that they were serving. But just seeing the impact that a consulting firm or a consultant can have was so eye-opening for me. And I really wanted to serve. I really wanted to do something with my career that would have a huge impact on people. And I didn't know what that would look like or what was available, but I just knew that it had to be something that wasn't like a 9-to-5, that wasn't a clock in, clock out, that wasn't something where I was a cog in a wheel, where I didn't even know where the wheel was going. It had to have significant impact that was measurable. And so that's kind of where I was coming from and what I was looking for. And I was also really concerned with having a job that I would feel that grew stale for me,
Mm-hmm.
Or that I grew stale in. And I knew that I would love almost any job for about 5 years, that I'm curious enough and I'm willing to kind of just dig deeper enough to be, in that mode. But I was really concerned about being in a job for longer than 5 years and being motivated and being truly connected to its mission and feeling like I was maximizing my abilities. And from all of those perspectives, I think, certainly getting involved in a startup and pursuing entrepreneurship was a good fit. But the reason we started iCadenza, my business partner Jennifer and I, was that, we just had an idea and we cared deeply about the arts. We were both artists, and that's how we connected with each other originally back in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
We went to middle and high school together. And we really wanted to see this industry that we love, that this industry that produces the art that we were always so drawn to, both experiencing as audience members and creating ourselves as artists. We wanted to see it thrive, and we weren't seeing that happening on a lot of levels. We weren't seeing artists stepping into their full selves a lot of the time. A lot of artists that we had connected to, either just in our own artistic path or just, artists that we had become aware of. As we talked to them and learned more about their journey, we saw a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, and very, very little support. And it's a very, very tough job to do what artists do on stage, and not having the right kind of support in terms of your mindset, in terms of what steps you can take in your career, is really, really challenging. And, artists graduate from conservatories and universities every year in the thousands, and very few have a feeling or a network that they can rely on, that really is helping guide them and shepherd them through that transition to a professional career. So we were really cognizant of that issue, as well as other challenges that arts organizations were facing as well. And so kind of learning more about all of that in our senior year of college, we were drawn to trying to find solutions to these problems. And we ended up entering a business plan competition at Tufts University, which is where I was graduating from, to, just with some ideas that we had, with, a business model for how we could address some of these challenges. And we had no idea what a business plan was. We had no idea how to approach, even competing in the competition, let alone starting a business. But we just thought this could be a really interesting exercise. And we ended up progressing through the rounds and winning second place prize in the Tufts 100K competition. So it was a really, really big moment for us. And the validation that winning that competition at the time provided us really gave us that kind of that self-assuredness to give it a shot and to give it a try. And originally it was supposed to be an experiment for 1 year, which we then renewed for 1 more year. And then we were hooked.
Oh, good. How close is your current business now to the business plan you wrote 9 years ago?
Yeah, it was exactly 9 years ago.
Yeah.
April 25th, 9 years ago, basically. Yeah, actually, sorry, March 25th.
All right,
9
so close.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not some, it's in terms of the mission and the impact that we wanted to have through it, which was it was a few pages of the plan.
Yeah.
We're definitely having a similar impact to what we intended. But in terms of the model, the business model, and how we go about doing it, it's not even related at all.
All right. So what types of artists do you specialize in? Is it just musicians, or is it actors, singers, musicians, dancers, the wide variety?
So as far as our agency is concerned, we represent music, dance, theater. We have a lot of projects that involve multimedia in some kind of way, some in a very, very kind of primary way. We have some projects that mix music and dance or have multiple genres represented. We work with a lot of different genres, everything from classical, jazz, world music to kind of more contemporary genres. And so it's a really broad cross-section. We do work with some visual artists as well. And then through consulting, we do a lot of work with those same categories of artists, as well as working with, through consulting and management, with composers, directors. We represent conductors and a lot of people that create behind the scenes that people just may not see. We're helping them kind of move their careers forward and build their networks as well. So it's a really, really broad kind of scope of people that are involved in the arts. We've also done a lot of work with organizations, especially arts organizations, where we're helping both through executive coaching and other kinds of consulting projects that we do, helping arts administrators as well.
Oh, great. So it looks like then, after you started iCadenza, about a year later, you started Cadenza Artists. how are they similar and how are they different, other than the names?